Starting any business is very challenging. If you read or watch any YouTube video about starting a business, you will quickly realize that you need entrepreneurship skills and you need to be willing to take risk and have a strong desire to achieve your goal and not give up on any sort of failure. In the book Rework, Jason Fried, who is also the founder of the software company called Basecamp, he says there's too much hype about entrepreneurship and startups, which is all nonsense. It doesn't have to be intimidating. You don't have to be an entrepreneur who has the desire to build $1 billion empire. On the contrary, it's awesome to just want a small side business that supplements your income. A small but profitable and sustainable business is a great accomplishment. What if the path to building a profitable and sustainable business is much simpler than you think? In Rework, he offers a refreshing approach to business that author Jason Fried and his team at Basecamp have validated for nearly 2 decades of running their software business. He talks about a mantra in the book, and the mantra goes like this: solve your problem with less and then pick a fight. This mantra might seem a little wacky, but let me break down each part of it. Solve your problem. When Vic Firth was playing drums for the Boston Symphony Orchestra, he got frustrated by the quality of drumsticks he was using. No two drumsticks seemed to have the same weight or produce the same sound, and so he went to his basement and started making his own drumsticks. These sticks had the same weight, the same density, in the same pitch. He called them the perfect pair. Years later, Firth now has a 62% share of the drumstick market. That's incredible. Let's look at another example. When Will Bowerman was a track coach at the University of Oregon, he looked for a lighter, higher quality running shoe for athletes. He couldn't find any, so he went to the local workshop and started pouring rubber into a waffle iron and created his own shoes. Years later, Nike was born. The author Jason Fried and his team at Basecamp have developed a software for project managers where each of the products was born out of a simple question: is this something we need and want to use? Before Basecamp, Jason Fried and his co-founders had careers where they need to manage several projects. They couldn't find a good application for doing so, so they built their own. Fried says there was no need for a focus group market or any type of market studies or any middleman. We just had an itch, so we scratched it. If you make a product or service to solve one of your problems, you immediately know if you're doing a good job or not. So Jason says if you build a business based on solving someone else's problem, you're constantly stabbing in the dark. And when you solve your own problems, you know exactly where the right answer is. So solving your own problem allows you to make decisions faster and more effectively during the early stages of starting a business. Decisions are a progress. Each one of them is like a brick in your foundation. Now you might think to solve your problem, you need lots of resources, but here's the thing, you need less than you think. When Basecamp was building their first software application, they did it on a shoestring budget and in far less time than they had originally thought. They shared office space with another company. They bought one server, just enough server space to support the launch for a few months. They didn't hire customer support. The owners answered each and every single email of the customers, and they didn't even have the ability to build customers until 30 days after they launched their product. Since they build in monthly cycles, they knew that they would have 30 days to figure out the building software, so they focused on more urgent problems. There are so many things that aspiring business owners think they need to start a business. Most of it fits in the category of nice to have or should have, not must have. Sure, it would be nice to have an MBA or be the expert in your industry, but what if you just made sure you had access to Google and a handful of trusted resource that you could lean on to solve your problems along the way? It would be nice to quit your job and have enough time to work on your idea, but what if you started waking up early or going to bed an hour later, and so that you could work on your idea while everyone else was watching TV? Sure, it would be nice to have outside investment or a healthy reserve of cash, but what if you did everything on cheap for now? You work from home, you use your apartment as a temporary warehouse, you build an online store before building a brick and mortar store, build your own website with cheap software instead of hiring an expensive web developer, And it would be nice to have a fancy business plan, but what if instead of building a business plan, you use that time to solve your problem? Build a product and sell it to at least 10 people. The point is, you need less than you think to get a business started. After this video, take a piece of paper and write down everything that you think you need to launch a successful business. What resources you need, what equipment, what expertise. Then go down the list. Look at each item and ask, do I really need this to get my business started? Could I get started with less? So right now we've covered solve your problem. Now let's talk about picking a fight. Dunkin' Donuts, a coffee shop in the US, positions itself as the anti-Starbucks. They go out of their way to say how different they are from Starbucks. They pride themselves for not having fancy names for cup sizes like venti or grande. They even had a website called dunkinbeatsstarbucks.com where visitors could send e-cards with messages like friends don't let friends drink Starbucks. Audi, the luxury car manufacturer, positions itself as the anti-old luxury car company, and they go out of their way to mock brands like Lexus and Mercedes. Recently, I saw an Audi commercial that showed a guy being briefed about how his new life in witness protection would be. Agents tell him that it's important that he can't be recognized, and they show him a picture of the car he'll need to drive. He looks down and sees a Lexus SUV. Man says, I'll take my chances, and then drives off in his Audi. Dunkin' Donuts and Audi purposely picks fights with their old mainstream competitors to be seen as the fresh alternative. Jason Fried says, being the anti-fill in the blanks is a great way to differentiate yourself and attract followers. People get stoked by conflict. They take sides. However, since in the last part it was recommended that you start building a product cheaply, you might think it's hard to one-up the competition. So don't. Instead, one down them. I recently went to a coffee shop in New York City and they had 4 options. That's it. Hot coffee, cold coffee, espresso, and espresso with milk. Their minimalist approach was their way of being the anti-mainstream coffee shop. They offered less but did it better. Their cold coffee was one of the best I ever had, and I'm definitely going back there. The strategy is to see what mainstream solutions have to offer, then decide what few things you want to do really well and purposely ignore offering anything else. I've tried to apply this strategy on this channel. I attempt to offer talking on fewer relevant topics that I think I have interest in and not cover a whole spectrum of a variety of topics. By offering less, you force yourself to leave out features or options that some people might like. This can be difficult to do, but doing so reveals your core values, which gives character to your solution and allows it to stand out even more in the marketplace. In the end, by finding one of your problems to solve, solving it with less, and then having the courage to pick a fight, and one downing your competition, you have a pretty damn good chance of starting a profitable and sustainable business that you can be proud of. That was the message that I gathered from this book, and I found it very interesting and I highly recommend it. It's filled with a lot of great counterintuitive business ideas. So let me know if you like the book, or leave some comment below about what you like the most in the book and what you learned from it, or what you learned from the video. Until then, peace. I attempt to offer. Recently, I saw an Audi, his new life in witness production. He talks about